All right, guys, welcome back to the Monthly Cup. We are at Grand Finals. It has been a long road for these players, but we have Mayhem, a former Monthly Cup champion, going up against Kumpel, a new blood, new player to the competitive scene, and this is going to be a great match. We've seen some fantastic performances from Kumpel throughout the tournament, and we haven't seen much Mayhem, unfortunately, but we kind of know what to expect from him after seeing him in previous Monthly Cups. Lizard, what do you think of this matchup? Who do you think is going to win and who has the edge?
Yeah, Mayhem, especially known for his yellow-red burn, the combat burn, which has been quite popular on ladder. A lot of people neglected it and played it to an extent where it almost become unbearable to play ladder. At least that's what I feel, but I always feel about burn decks that way, so yeah, I'm a bit biased. I like Kumpel Kiefer here as a new player, as the underdog, making his way up to the Great Mayhem, facing him off hopefully in a great series. And yeah, I'm excited.
It feels like Kumpel has like the final boss right now. This is the final boss of Faeria today, and he needs to. You could even consider Mayhem a world boss of a Monthly Cup stature at least. And Kumpel, he has a long road ahead of him, but from his performance today and from his plays, he definitely has the potential to take down a Titan like Mayhem. And like you said, advocate of Red Yellow Bird. I'm a big fan of the deck personally, but I know some people don't like to be burned out. I can understand that. But I feel that experience might be the deciding factor in this series, but maybe Kumpel will surprise us.
Let's see if Mayhem can live up to the likes of King Magnus and the other world bosses. I hope they're adding more soon. Was it about in a week?
Oh, you never know. The world bosses could crop up at any time. But we have one world boss now, and that's Mayhem. He's going to be going against Kumpel. Let's see how this game goes. Atmaz, Scorch, take it away.
All right, thank you guys very much. We are very excited to bring you the grand finals here, of course. Mayhem and Kumpel Keffer, as they've been talking about. Atmaz, are you ready?
I am ready. Kumpel Keffer, the German from out of nowhere. His first Monthly Cup ever, and he's in the grand finals. That's a good record. Meanwhile, Mayhem, I think we've established 6 Monthly Cups he's qualified for, and has taken first place in one of them. So certainly the experience goes to Mayhem, who'll be opening with a blue deck. I believe it's a blue Reaver deck, versus Kumpel Keffer's blue Jump deck. So a more mid-range deck for Kumpel. But I believe Mayhem's is more late game with Dream Reaver and Forbidden Library and things like that. By the way, World Bosses, next Friday. Every Friday in June, we'll be releasing a new set of World Bosses, so you can expect that. We announced that last Friday, and we're excited to get all those out all through June. Okay, game is beginning. Turn 1 goes to Mayhem, and he has Water Elemental in hand, which I think will be his turn 2, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, it definitely looks like he'll probably set up that Water Elemental. It just allows you to accelerate towards that Forbidden Library so quickly, and you really want to get that down as fast as possible to start snowballing value from it. Kumpel Keffer does have a good answer with that Emperor's Command in hand, so we're really we've, throughout the course of the day, been seeing that card really used as the 2-1 debuff to remove opponent's creatures, whether they're the little creatures or the remaining power of something bigger left behind. But right now, it looks like he should be able to get some value out of it to kill off this library.
Filling his hand with Spell Whirl, but unfortunately it's a failed experiment and a Tail of the Old Turtle. Now, Tail could see some use later on this game, but I believe failed experiment may be a dead card for the rest.
One of the things, failed experiment actually decent to go along with your Prophet of Tides if you're in a situation where you need to save that Faeria. Of course, it's a combination that we used to see quite a bit in some of these decks, running the failed experiment for that, or for Aurora even, once you get into that stage of the game. But Tail of the Old Turtle is an interesting one because it possibly gives you some good discounts onto things like your Water Elemental, your Triton Warrior, even the Ancient Herald that we've seen as these kind of mid-range creatures. But if you start to hit your Frogifies, your Battletoads, you really lose a lot of value out of that card.
Yeah, actually, Failed Experiment, now that I think of it, does have a few uses here, especially with cards like Aurora. I forget if he runs things like Phantasm, I don't know, things like that. But yeah, actually, that card is not dead. Forget what I said. We do have 2 Battletoads next to the Orb for Mayhem, who, by the way, it's important to note, is playing as Hawaka. So that should give him advantage to all his frogs, I think. Also some jumping frogs from Fragora's Orb. Isn't that interesting? So we could see this turn for Mayhem go double Faeria here for a bunch of Faeria, but unfortunately if he does that, the Water Elemental is going to have something to say to him. So he goes for 3 lakes. Is he going to preemptively 6/6? Nope.
Well, looks just establishing the Water Elemental, maybe getting that first Forbidden Library down. Actually very interesting the way that Mayhem is opened here. Instead of going for the very early Water Elemental and extend your lands as fast as possible, like we're seeing Kumpelkeffer do, he actually went for the Battletoads first, and that sets you up for this more control start rather than the accelerated attacking your opponent as quick as possible start. But like I mentioned, we should see that Emperor's Command come down to take care of this library before it's really able to get any value. We'll see what the follow-up is from Kumpelkeffer, because that Snowstorm Lancer actually looks very good.
Lancer could do some, and he plays it right away. Yeah, you can't blame him. Lancer could do some work in this lineup here. Just takes care of that Forbidden Library right away with the Emperor's Command. And interesting start in this matchup. If you're just joining us, this is the grand finals of today's monthly cup, the 11th monthly cup ever. Winner of this match does get $1,500. And the loser, quote-unquote loser, who's not really a loser, gets $1,000. So you can consider it to be $500 on the line, give or take, or so to speak, in this matchup. Both these players champions of the day, so we should see some high-level play. Now, he does not have a 1 damage ping to take care of this Water Elemental in the form of Emperor's Command or Falcon Dive or whatnot, so he may consider busting his Aurora out right now. And, it's not that bad of a use of her. The 6/3 will remain on board, can deal with that Snowstorm Lancer. And it looks like he's going to drop his second Forbidden Library, which unfortunately, or fortunately for Kumpelkeffer, he has an answer for in the form of another Emperor's Command, and there it is, 6/6.
Mayhem just dropping his entire hand right now, trying to keep that pressure on the board, keep all the creatures that he can alive here to deal with the aggression that's coming out from Kumpelkeffer here. But it'll be interesting to see if we see the other Emperor's Command come out, kill off that Forbidden Library again, or maybe the Enchantress could come down. You want to... Or sorry, not Enchantress, the Gabriel Enchantment could come down onto that Water Elemental, reduce its power so the Lancer can stay alive here. But you really want to have creatures left on the board, and Kumpelkeffer doesn't really have any good ones right now. Not really in a position where he can get a good enough Colossus here. Could get it discounted down to 6, and then maybe you can play it, but it's kind of really awkward position.
Such a defensive opening for Mayhem, and this tells you the story of each deck. Now Mayhem's deck is so much more late game than Kumpel's will be, this mid-range deck. So looking for those Reavers, once those Reavers come out, it's just going to be so tough for Kumpel to deal with them. So he needs to put pressure on fast, and he's already doing that. He's already been doing that. He has the option to kill the Water Elemental this turn, can crush that Forbidden Library.
Yeah, and actually now that Ninja Toad picked up as well means he could play a lake in between the wells and Ninja Toad to kill off Aurora, but looks like he's going to go Prophet of Tides and move the Lancer directly into the middle is interesting. Oh, and Ninja Toad clears off the library instead of using the Emperor's Command. Very nicely spotted, and using that failed experiment with the Prophet of Tide.
Exactly as you predicted, the failed experiment was used on a Prophet of Tides very early in the game, so Spell Whirl coming into use in that regard. Tail sits in hand still. Mayhem now with a 0/5 Sturdy Shell that can't do very much at all, and a 7-cost Dream Reaver. This is what we're talking about. This is the late game card you want to get out. But 7 lakes to get there. And of course the Faeria, still some time. So he does draw a card, and it's a Mere Phantasm. 2 7-cost cards, this blue 7s deck. Unfortunately, out of steam at this one very moment. We'll see the Snowstorm Lancer get cleared here from the Frog, I'm sure. But he still has a Ninja Toad that he just can't deal with. So, he's either going to lose his Aurora, probably loses Aurora, or even see the Sturdy Shell be dealt damage, because you want to take that down to lower health, because most likely you expect your opponent to be running Gabriel enchantments.
Yeah, kind of unfortunate for Mayhem there that he drew into the Dream Reaver. Again, that 7 lake requirement, he's sitting on 5. So you're either in a position where you want to play lakes to play the Dream Reaver next turn, but you don't have anything else to play and you're faced with this much aggression. You really need to draw a card in that situation. Really nicely done to kill off the Snowstorm Lancer instead of the Ninja Toad there, because that actually means anything clearing Aurora would give the extra buff to the Lancer, and it could kill the Sturdy Shell in the bottom corner here, but Mayhem playing perfectly around that possibility. And even though the Sturdy Shell is going to take a hit from the Ninja Toad, it does survive. So the Mirror Phantasm coming down on the next turn, if that's what Mayhem chooses to go for, will reinforce this position.
Kumpel is reading this game perfectly. He knows exactly what type of deck Mayhem is running. He knows he has to be aggressive. He already has a 5-cost Colossus on the board. Now, Mirror Phantasm is playable this turn, but he isn't able to clear the Colossus with what he has. So it's possible we might see it on the Sturdy Shell to clear the Ninja Toad. He has an Emperor's Command as well at his disposal, but just slightly off from taking care of that Colossus this turn. However, the longer this game goes on, the more tools Mayhem is going to have to deal with Kumpel that are just can be suffocating. Specifically Dream Reaver. That's going to be a game changer if that gets out. Now, interesting to me, or actually, no, maybe not so. I was expecting him to put the Mirror Phantasm in front of the orb so that the Colossus had no path. But actually, I think he's okay with taking 7 damage if that's the case, because, yeah, he has Dream Reaver and Emperor's Command to heal and stuff, so he wants that Faeria harvesting more than he wants to block the 7 damage to face.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to me that that's the way that he went for, of not blocking the face there. He's okay taking that hit just to get the denial of the important lake position there. And then, again, establishing that extra lake means next turn he can get the to the 7 requirement for the Dream Reaver. Looks like he's in a position to double collect, and that'll allow him to get that Dream Reaver down, maybe even dash aggressively up the right side, and that'll get that Dream Reaver into a very aggressive position.
Pulls a second Colossus off the top, harvests with his other Colossus to take it to 4. This is the smallest Colossus yet, or Colossi, I should say. So, but doesn't put it down. He's just going to continue harvesting. I was expecting another 7/7 close to the face there to try and close this out, but playing a little bit slower. This is going to give Mayhem an opportunity to clear this Colossus, even with a Ninja Toad if he'd like to.
Yeah, that actually looks like Kumpelkeffer perfectly read the Dream Reaver. If there was some way that the Colossus could have been killed off there and the Mirror Phantasm was able to collect somehow, then the Dream Reaver would dash up the right side. Maybe he was reading into something of a Frogify or another Mirror Phantasm coming out if he played the Colossus aggressive. So just decides to play around a couple possibilities there and go for more of a reset of the board of these creatures.
Right, yeah, definitely playing against a lot of different punishing moves from Mayhem, and of course, we see every deck or every card in each player's hand, but the players do not. So we have bird's eye view here. I would expect. Oh, the dogs of war! They bay.
Yeah, I would expect a Ninja Toad is probably used to clear off the Colossus here. That allows it to collect, and then the Mirror Phantasm could step up onto your opponent's lake and deny that possible aggressive Colossus spot coming down. Whether Mayhem chooses to go for a lake on this turn and set up for the Dream Reaver, or if he wants to maybe draw a card or develop an extra Faeria so that next turn he can place the lake in the right position for that Dream Reaver play. It'll be interesting to see what he goes for here as his final decision.
Yes, I returned. Sorry about that. So once in a while, the dogs get very excited when the dogs of war see games like this and they can't help themselves. 3 Faeria for Mayhem. Next turn, Dream Reaver is possible. Now, do you think the first? Well, I imagine what he'll do is when he does play that Dream Reaver, if it's possible, he'll just double Prairie up the left side there, play that Dream Reaver after harvesting, and 7 damage next to a 10 health orb. He's a Gabriel enchantment away from winning the game. I believe that's what his line of thinking is. What do you think Kumpelkeffer's line of thinking is now that he's been pushed back after his initial assault? How do you see yourself playing the rest of this? Now you could Prophet of Tides this turn to get a little closer and clear that Aurora, or maybe even do some orb damage.
Yeah, there's a couple of interesting spots he could put the Prophet of Tides in. He could either put it in the aggressive lake in the bottom left there, or he could develop one to double collect on the right. Looks like he's going to go for that aggressive line and then... Oh, actually use the Triton Warrior to kill off the Aurora instead. I was thinking of it would kill off the Mirror Phantasm on the left there, and then you would just deny everything from your opponent and really deny that Dreamweaver from coming out in an aggressive spot. But this is just going to allow Mayhem to Dreamweaver aggressively and set up for possibly an enchantment just to end the game next turn.
And the only possible land left for Kumpel Kefir to put a lake on that's within range of the orb for the Mystic Beast has been played. That was a mouthful to say. But yeah, if he didn't get that spot, his Mystic Beast was shut out from that sort of access to the orb. And Mayhem's just been doing a great job at stopping something like that. But eventually, something's going to give. And what we just saw, it finally did. 7 Faeria, 2 Dreamweavers in turn, in hand for Mayhem. Does it come out this turn?
I think you have to this turn. You possibly could play the Dreamweaver on your opponent's orb and then dash it defensively, but that just doesn't seem like you're ever going to get the value out of it. If you're in a position like this where you have the ability to Dreamweaver your opponent, you might as well dash it to your opponent. So definitely to me, it looks like Prairie's just straight up from the lake above the Prophet of Tides there. Doesn't go for it. So he's going to now Emperor's Command the Prophet and then Battletoads, I would expect, just because you've now drawn that card that you can play, but maybe he doesn't go for the Battletoads.
Well, it's important to note that, if you did make that play where the Dreamweaver goes to face, you're a Frogify away from putting yourself in a terrible position. So I think that the downside of the Frogify was too much for Mayhem to gamble. We know there was none in hand, but, Mayhem does not. So probably... just playing the safest he can, as he has 8 damage facing him next to the orb. Now with that Battletoad, it's only 4, so a little bit longer. Once again, the longer this game goes, as long as Mayhem can keep his health up beyond a 1-turn lethal range, he's gonna be able to come back from this. These are the turns. These are the clutch turns. Can Kumpel Kefir finish it off before any of that happens, and that's certainly what he's going to try to do. Of course, in the meantime, he's not only just hitting the face, he's harvesting. He's been double harvesting for a little bit. He's now lacking the land to do so. So we may see like a Prophet of Tides come out and go back there and harvest from that back well as he continues to put pressure on the face. Meanwhile, Mayhem only has one well to harvest from.
It is a tough position right now. It doesn't look like there's a great Prophet of Tides play to go for, but Kumpel Kefir could go for the +1 Fairy and play a Tyrannax. I think just the Colossus is a better option right now. You can use your Mystic Beast to clear the Toad, and then use your 4/3 remaining of the Warrior to kill off the Mirror Phantasm there, but looks like he is going to go for the full board clear onto the Battletoads here. Not quite full board clear. The Mirror Phantasm does survive, but... And this is kind of an awkward spot for Mayhem because he chose to go for the more passive play. He's now really way out of reach of the Dreamweavers here, just under so much pressure.
Yeah, he could have even played the Dreamer defensively that previous turn, which would let him with that gigantic body to defend with. Of course, Frogify then would be still pretty devastating. So a lot of different options for Mayhem. He has a lot of experience, though, and knows, more often than not what the best line of play is going to be. Emperor's Command here can do a lot of work. Get rid of that 4/1, put the pressure off of his face, and that Sturdy Shell can start double harvesting in a couple turns here.
Now, a big thing because of that Prairie being moved over for Kumpel Kefir with that Prophet of Tides last turn, he could actually go for another Prairie if he wants to here and lock that Sturdy Shell's positioning in, because it does have the aquatic. It could have denied that double collection spot, but looks like he's not going to go for that. Gets the draw and just plays the Colossus.
There it is. Big Daddy Colossus. No Frogify in hand for Mayhem, and even if he did have a Frogify, he has no creature that is capable of destroying even a frog. Water Elemental is his only playable creature. He'll have to draw for some kind of answer, but what would he be looking for? There's a Frogify, of course, but, possibly a Gabriel enchantment. to maybe put the Colossus in range of a Ninja Toad or something. Wow, this is just not a great hand for Mayhem at this time. At one point, it looked like he was really close to just putting it in the Kumple, but at this point, he just needs more Faeria. He needs to get his Dream Reavers out, and as turns go by, it gets less and less likely he's going to do that. If the Colossus and both the Prophet and the Colossus attack him next turn, he goes to 10, and then even if he uses a Dream Reaver then, he's dead because, there's still 10 damage on board.
Yeah, it looks like a position where you almost have to use the Water Elemental just to body block and trade with the Prophet of Tides. Even +1 this turn, that puts you to 2 Faeria. That means next turn you can possibly get it to line up with your Sturdy Shell collecting and maybe even a +1 Faeria that you can get the Dream Reaver down. But Radiance is an interesting card in here. Of course, we're not going to see it this game just because the Forbidden Libraries weren't able to get any value from Mayhem there. It looks like he's going to be set up in a way that the Colossus is going to deal a lot of damage, and he's going to be sitting on like 10 life, not a position where you can play Radiance.
And that's the story of this game. Both of Mayhem's Forbidden Libraries were shut down before they could even tick once. One fell to an Emperor Command, and the other fell to some Ninja Toad shenanigans. So, yeah, not a single damage done to him. Didn't gain a single Faeria from it or a single card, and that's how the powerhouse of this deck works, how the engine of it works. Now, Kumple has a comfortable library that he could play of his own, which is going to continue to give him more of an advantage, to ramp up his advantage. And, 10 damage, looking to be uncontested to face, at least. There's an Aurora in hand as well.
Yeah, could put through a lot of extra damage. Really just set up for, if you go for that Aurora, both of these creatures represent being lethal damage, even if your opponent does find a Frogify, instead of like the Colossus being your only big creature. So then if Frogify comes out, you give your opponent another turn there. But it doesn't actually look like the Aurora is going to come out since the attacks were already made. And we're just going to see the Tyrannex instead. So this still should be enough for lethal, even if there is a Frogify.
Just a casual Tyrannex next to the orb. A 4/6 is a threat. It's a mid-range threat, but it is a threat when you have nothing, no units on board to deal with it. Ninja Toad here. Is this lethal? There's a Dream. He has to Dream River this turn, I believe. But is that still lethal? No, that's lethal still. Do you see a way for him to survive here? Radiance.
Radiance just looks so awkward, unfortunately.
10, 14... I think he survives with 1 if he Radiances. It's the only way he survives. Oh, no, he survives with more because he has to...
Yeah, he's able to get the body block in as well. Right. Unfortunately, we're going to see that Frogify come out from Kumpelkefir and now draws another one from the library as well. And it really just delays the inevitable for a single turn here for Mayhem. It was able to heal up a little bit, but it's just not going to be enough.
So punishing the Frogify is here. All momentum of Mayhem has been lost at this point. He's even harvesting with that Prophet of Tides. They're still lethal on board multiple ways. Even a Triton Warrior here is just insult to injury, rubbing salt in the wound. I believe Kumpelkefir, the German player, is going to take game 1 from the possible favorite. I think it's fair to say Mayhem may be the favorite here. And he's taking game 1.
Yeah, in a really good position. Going for, giving up that 3 damage of the Prophet on that past turn when it's not really going to make a difference, just to get the extra collection and get the warrior down. Really showing the game sense to put out the max that you can a worth of damage to really ensure it next turn, no matter what your opponent does. But really strong play there. Able to deny those early Forbidden Libraries was absolutely huge for Kumpelkefir in that game.
And that is a sad Huaka. The namesake of Mayhem's blue deck has fallen. We will no longer see blue from Mayhem, and will be introduced to the rest of his decks here. Remember, this is a best of 5, so you must win 3 games, and after you lose with any deck, it is gone. And it looks like we see Crackthorn from Mayhem against this blue jump deck.
Yeah, so I would expect Mayhem is running kind of the standard lineup. When you're starting with that blue Reaver, you generally think, okay, maybe it's Crackthorn and then something of a yellow events in behind. So we do see him go towards this green-red, and Garridan in the opening hand, depending on the way that Kumpel Keffer's creatures start, that could actually be really important for this game.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll see a start like we saw the other game where both players go right for each other. I kind of don't think that we will, but it is possible. Yeah, Wood Ellie, good play this turn. Crackthorn is just such a versatile deck. There's so many things you can do with it. It has so much mobility in the form of Horse Masters, usually Grove Callers. So much more of a mid-range deck than Mayhem's previous opener, the Blue Sevens, or more appropriately the Reaver Blue deck. That's much more of a late game deck than this one, so a lot more early defenses, I'd say, and Mayhem's tool belt against this blue deck. So Kumpel will have to maybe play it a little bit, maybe even a little bit faster if it's even possible, because the longer you wait against Crackthorn as blue, you're going to run into a lot of problems when Garridan comes out.
Yep, definitely true. Kumpel Keffer, unfortunately, right now, not getting a great start. Could go for Prophet of Tides and get it between the wells, but going to look what he gets off the Spell Whirl first. Ooh, and Gabriel Noble, Egg of Wonders, a combination that we saw earlier off of a Spell Whirl, exact 2 cards. So we'll see if he goes for that Gabriel Noble on the next turn, this time playing away instead of what we saw before when I think it was just in the 3rd place match that Arianel was able to get a lot of value against Gabriel Noble with his Underground Brigand.
Egg of Wonders, I want to see it come down, and I don't want to see it land on a Prophet of Tides. I want to see it do some big work. Yep, Gabriel Noble here coming out. The Ruby Fish against Crackthorn, doesn't have extreme amount of survivability, but it looks like it'll get at least 1 turn of harvesting, and yeah, I believe so. You don't want to Garridan just to get rid of a fish and bring the Noble to 1.
Could go for the Silent Horse Master here. It's not necessarily a bad play coming out from Mayhem, especially now with that Wood Elemental. That actually means that you can go for a mountain and then a forest, and then still play the Horse Master instead of Double Prairies. Double Prairies you generally don't want to go for as a Crackthorn player because you want to continue to develop your aggressive and especially your lands towards the Crackthorn. So it looks like we will see the Horse Master here, and actually going Forest Mountain, which is guaranteeing the Axe Grinder spot instead of what I said, which was Mountain Forest.
Can't argue with that play. Rubyfish tried so hard to do something. Well, it did do 1 damage, so he's basically a Falcon Dive fish. In the meantime, Kumpel Keffer hasn't harvested once from the enemy well, so Colossus are 8. You know what? Play the Egg of Wonders, draw a card, and draw Colossus. That's a play you can do. Here comes the Prophet of Tides, though. First harvest from the enemy well, clears that Wood Elemental off, 1 health left, which is very dangerous against a Crackthorn deck when, it has Crackthorn in hand. Look at all these 1 health creatures on board. He's going to have to drop some beef here, I think, just to try and play against some kind of Crackthorn. Of course, Ground Shaker gets around it completely, so you're not even safe there.
Yeah, unfortunately, Kumpel Keffer could go for Triton Warrior here. Could go for Aurora to buff this back up, and that looks like that's what he's going to go for, but still really vulnerable to even just a Ground Shaker, but Crackthorn as well. Looks like it's going to do a lot of work here for Mayhem.
Yeah, he could go for the Crackthorn here. He doesn't necessarily need to. The idea is he wants to stop the harvesting from that 3-1 more than anything. He can kill Aurora pretty easily without the use of any of that. So, tough to say, I think, what he wants to do. He could actually play Garridan this turn as well, but not so great when you're only doing 3 damage to the Gabriel Noble. So I wonder if you do Crackthorn here, just see where it lands. Maybe make a land just to clear the Aurora in case she doesn't die, or maybe clear the Aurora first.
Yeah, I think clearing the Aurora first gives you a pretty decent chance of the Prophet dying. Although, that being said, we've seen some Crackthorn deal 4 damage to the orb when you just needed 1 to one of the creatures throughout the course of the day here. But Crackthorn could even be played defensively. Set it up near the Gabriel Noble there, and then you're kind of setting up for possibly Garridan as a big clear coming up on a follow-up turn.
Harvesting with the Horse Master, I think we're going to see Crackthorn as possible, also Axe Grinder. But it seems like a fairly safe Crackthorn play here. He comes, boom, there goes the Prophet of Tides. That's all he really wanted. Some buffs fly around. He's got a 6/6 Crackthorn there. He only needed 4 health on the Crackthorn, so it's not extremely ideal, but it works. He's also got an Elderwood Embrace, and that's worth mentioning. Now, important to note is that 1 damage did go to face, so that Gabriel Noble is not 3 health, which is relevant for Garridan.
Yeah, is really important to point out there. Could be just the Axe Grinder comes down defensively if he wants to clear the Noble with a more efficient play there. But we are going to see now 2, maybe 3, 4 life creatures come down in the 2 Triton Warriors as well. So yeah, Garridan doesn't look like Mayhem will even be able to play it here, but it does, even just a Firestorm wouldn't be able to clear anything.
All these 4 health creatures, it's the bane of Garridan and the bane of Flame Burst. So yeah, I wonder if we don't just see an Elderwood's Embrace to deal with these 2 creatures next to him. That's what we see. Of course, he'll be able to clear it off with the Triton Warrior, but that's okay. He's taking the trade, he's accepting it. And we see 4 damage to the face, bringing Kumpel to 15. And there's an Axe Grinder too, very nice.
Yeah, really interesting that Mayhem actually played this Crackthorn defensively, because the way that his prairies were played aggressively, he could have actually played the Crackthorn and dashed up instead of to where the Axe Grinder currently is, instead of the prairie directly beside Kumpelkeffer's orb, and actually put that in an aggressive position to push damage as quick as possible. Does leave you a little more exposed, so maybe he was just saying, I want to make sure that I at least have the race managed. Stormspawn is not what you want to see come off the Spell Whirl there.
Spell Whirl giveth and it taketh, and so far it's been taking quite a bit, as you have an Egg of Wonders, Stormspawn, and Aurora's Disciple. None of those are what you want against this deck if you're not built for it. So, Egg of Wonders draw card is also off the table because he uses Fire Wheel. He can't get that Colossus out, although all his Colossus cost 5. So, all right, I'll give up on Egg of Wonders. It's not going to work out very well at this point. Defensive Colossus coming down, the best way he has to deal with that Axe Grinder.
And that is something that you love to see as a Crackthorn player. Whenever you see, or not even just as a Crackthorn player, just whenever you're playing against blue like this, when you see them use a Colossus defensively, you absolutely are okay with that. So much time for Mayhem now. Even if these Axe Grinders are able to get cleared by Kumpelkeffer, he just has all the control he needs right now to seal the game.
1 less to deal with, 12 damage next to face. Mystic Beast played offensively, that's 12 damage guaranteed onto Kumpelkeffer. Cypher's Wrath drawn, pretty much a dead card at this time, but he's 1 turn away from evening up. Mayhem's 1 turn away from evening up this best of 5, taking it to 1-1. There's a Crackthorn. Buffs land on none of the attacking units. A one-off.
Just one off.
Somebody do the math on that, figure out what the odds were to get the win off that Crackthorn. I feel like it was high because all he needed was, the face or either of those 2 targets would have been nice. And that's it.
In that situation, if Mayhem had the 2 extra Faeria, he actually could have Cypher's Wrath his own Horsemaster there to ensure that the buffs would have gone on the aggressive creatures. But Kumpelkeffer, just knowing that he's not going to recover from 1 life remaining against that much power. So Mayhem does take a very nice game for the Crackthorn, and he will go up against, see what Kumpelkeffer brings out for his second deck.
Very decisive win there from Mayhem. Just crushed with that Crackthorn. Just almost looks so one-sided there for Mayhem. So he'll be with his Crackthorn. Kumpelkeffer has, I believe, he's got yellow events or Crackthorn of his own to bring out, and he chooses yellow events, which is a very powerful deck. And he starts with Kalim and keeps it. And he's looking for some movement there, I think, with the mulligan, but that's okay. Still a good hand.
Yeah, really nice start for Kumpelkeffer getting that Kalim in the opening hand. And having the Outland Ranger as well is very important when you're able to get that campfire. You're able to use Kalim to deal with the early Sagami Warriors, the early Wood Elementals, or even the Axe Grinder that we see coming out in Mayhem's hand there. So it's going to depend on what Mayhem chooses to go for as his early plays, and then what Kumpelkeffer can draw into, because if he can get a movement event, he can really deal with any of these smaller creatures. If Mayhem chooses to go for Cypher, then you're going to want to draw into a Last Nightmare to control the board, but probably looking like it should be a good position for Kumpelkeffer at the start.
Turn 1 Harvester played for Mayhem. It's that 3/4 Sagami Warrior. Just a solid early Harvester. 3/4 for 3. Hard to beat that. Here comes an Explorer to bring out that Outland Ranger, and he doesn't really have to worry about campfiring at this turn because there are no mountains played just yet.
Yeah, and we do see that early Outland Ranger doesn't have to use the campfire because Mayhem did go forest first. If he had gone mountain first, then you probably see that campfire come out just to play around the Cypher's Wrath. Of course, you always have to worry about it in that situation. We probably will see the campfire here. Although we might hold on to it. It's actually very good to hold on to for Kaleem. Even if the Outland Ranger gets Cypher's Wrath, having the campfire for Kaleem is actually really big.
4 damage is relevant in a lot of different ways. Of course, the Sagami Warrior on board, but you also got wood elementals. It could be axe grinders. There's a lot of things that 4 damage takes care of that 3 damage just does not. And of course, the extra health is nice too. So, Mayhem, unfortunately, does not have a Cypher's Wrath to deal with Outland Ranger. That would be a nice little punish here for not using that campfire, but he doesn't have it. So, options here. You could Cypher. There are no movement Horsemaster or Grove Callers in hand, so Cypher might be just chasing units around for a while. So yeah, it looks like just an Axe Grinder there. A 3-4 and a 4-3, the Harvesting Brothers, either side of the orb here.
Yeah, an Axe Grinder just set up on the opposite side, so Kaleem doesn't have free reign to fly over, even a Flash Wind or a Fanatic move down to the right, bottom right corner, and you open up so much potential value for Kaleem just controlling one side of the board. So Mayhem making the switch over to ensure that Kaleem can't do that. I was kind of interested there. Mayhem could have gone for like an Elderwood Embrace onto the Warrior and then stepped up a space. And that could have set him up in a position where he's kind of baiting the opponent into Last Nightmare, and then you would play Cypher right behind it. Kumpelkeffer drew another Last Nightmare, so we would have seen that not pan out in the right way, but it would have been an interesting play nonetheless.
Still no movement from either player. No movement tricks. They're just using their creatures as designed to move about the field. Second Axe Grinder in hand for Mayhem, so I think we'll see a harvest here now. The reason why Kaleem would be afraid of attacking into the Axe Grinders is because of things like Cypher's Wrath, but we already know, or at least Kumpelkeffer should be suspicious, that there is no Cypher's Wrath in hand. So Garridan just comes out and deals with the problem on his own, and now Kaleem, even if he uses that campfire, he will be destroyed by the Axe Grinder.
Yeah, really early Garridan. Usually we see him come down much later in the game when you're able to get a lot more value. But here you're able to, at least for now, looks like keep your warrior alive, and that is really important for the course of the game. Even set Kaleem up in a position where the Axe Grinder can kill it off. Kaleem very limited to the top right corner now. Even if he tries to reset to the opposite side, Garridan can kind of chase him around the board here. So I would expect we probably see Wind Soldier and the Campfire to kill off the Warrior in the bottom left, and then we'll see Last Nightmare come down to kill off Garridan, but it doesn't really lead any follow-up for Kumpelkeffer here. He doesn't have another creature, which would be very important.
Another one of those one-cost Wind Soldiers. Kaleem, farewell. You did your duty, and there is that Last Nightmare. Board clear for Kumpelkeffer, and he has the Faeria advantage, so to speak. Mayhem will get to play a unit first, though. So kind of a little bit of a reset there. Throwing away his board is Kumpelkeffer. The bad thing about this, though, is Kumpelkeffer doesn't really have anything in hand to play that sticks on the board. He's just got another, a one-cost Wind Soldier again.
Yeah, Wood Elemental is a very big pickup for Mayhem here. He obviously had the Axe Grinder he could have gone for, but that instantly gets cleared by another Wind Soldier if Kumpelkeffer has one. We can see that he does, but the Wood Elemental picked up there means, +1, you continue to develop the lands. It's going to start pushing up the right side and hopefully get an Axe Grinder position up there. Since Kumpelkeffer doesn't really have the creatures to play right now, he is forced to go for draws. So looks like we'll see another Wind Soldier here. Outland Ranger picked up means the Campfire will continue to clear off the Wood Elemental.
I had to say, over 75% of the Wind Soldiers I've seen play today are one cost. And we've seen the Campfire trick on him multiple times as well. So, yeah, nice clear there. Now, Kumpel has a unit that sticks on board and can harvest unless it gets flame bursted, and then it kind of resets again. I don't think we'll see that. There's an Axe Grinder option. He'd love to get a Cypher out. Unfortunately, one Faeria away from that. And as a follow-up, Kumpelkeffer, the yellow player, will have a Sticky Charger to play on board and start dancing around with that. Double harvest position for that Axe Grinder. I like that.
Yeah, Mayhem right now really just needs to get something to stick on the board. He needs to have a creature in between the wells on the right side here, continue to collect his way back into the game, because Kumpelkefer has used one Last Nightmare. We saw that come onto Garrett, and that means Mayhem's got probably 3 Ground Shakers. He's got this Cypher. He's got the 3 Crackthorns. Those are very big creatures that Kumpelkefer is going to struggle to deal with once you start seeing these Last Nightmares get used. So really important for Mayhem to have creatures just stick to the board and continue to collect here.
Yeah, Voice of Truth drawn, not very useful at this time. Probably not very useful in this matchup in general. Just going to sit here, double harvest. Plays a Cypher, I think, although he does not have... plays a Cypher. Doesn't have a Grove Collar, but Kumpel is going to suspect that he does. So this is super dangerous. I expect the Last Nightmare right away on this guy.
Yeah, unfortunately, that land missing from directly in front of Mayhem's Orb means Kumpelkefer can't go for the Last Nightmare on Cypher and play the Fanatic to get the Charger to go aggressive to the Orb here. But we are just going to see the Last Nightmare, and Kumpelkefer continuing to draw. He has enough lands set up on the left side here that he can have this Charger zip back and forth very freely. So just continuing to draw for more and more options every turn.
Both players double harvesting now. The Grove Collar was pulled off the top, so super great that he did destroy that Cypher while he had the opportunity. So many players we've seen make the mistake of say, Cypher can stay on board for a turn. And then they regret that almost instantly. So won't have to worry about that. Nice harvesting going on here for Mayhem. Both players, I think, at this point are just the board state is very, it's pretty balanced right now. I don't think there's a heavy weight on either player's side. With the Flame Burst in hand, Mayhem has the option of clearing a 3-2, but he can't quite deal with the 2-4, and that's what's important. Well, I guess he could just Grove Collar here. Do you think that might be the play? Oh my goodness, that seems like the obvious thing to do now.
Yeah, it seems very good to get that Grove Collar in. Unfortunately, it means your Axe Grinder can't collect from the double collect on the right. It's also not going to be in a good enough position to collect on the left. So it's just a little awkward for Mayhem here. Although, you can't step that way either.
Yeah,
he's just that little bit of Faeria off, and of course that's just due to the way that Kumpelkefer's been controlling the board. But the Grove Collar here is going to reestablish that double collector, while you have your Axe Grinder switch over the other side into this clearing the creature's defensive position.
And he's forced into a little bit awkward positioning with that Grove Collar due to how the lands are placed. He would love to have a forest in double harvesting position, so it'll take a couple turns to get there. Just a small little cloud to his silver lining, I guess. But this Axe Grinder can be cleared fairly easily with the Outland Ranger harvesting at the same time. He's got a Colossus to plop down, and here it is, Crackthorn against a 7/7. That's one of the things they don't like to play against, because you're going to have to deal with it through raw stats and things like Flame Burst.
Yeah, and here we can see that double collection. Of course, we were talking about how Mayhem was a little bit short on Faeria last turn. Again, because of the way the teleport had to work, he's short on Faeria again this turn. Could have been, if he was in the double collection spot, +1 and play the Crackthorn, but really just not in a position to do it. He's going to have to probably step into double collection and then hope that Crackthorn, Flameburst, Cypher's Wrath maybe can do enough to this Colossus, but it's just looking really tough for Mayhem to come back in this one.
He's going to take 7 damage, guaranteed. He's going to have to deal with it after the fact. He doesn't have any taunts in hand. He possibly runs things like Wood Elemental. But yeah, after this turn, 8 damage even to face. So we're going to see him go to 9, Mayhem. And 8 damage is worse. 8 health is worse to deal with than 7 health because of math. So you're going to have to hope for, goodness, what would you even hope for here? Voice of Truth is 1 damage. That's almost nothing. You have no creature in range. You have no transportation to get there, no taxi cab. So you could just do a Hail Mary Crackthorn. Feed the Forest may want to be played here to see what he pulls out of it if he has a better answer.
Yeah, Feed the Forest does give you the extra Faeria. It goes up to 12 for Crackthorn, Flameburst, Cypher's Wrath possibly, but it's still not going to be enough in that situation. Wondering if Voice of Truth, Feed the Forest would have been better. But I think you still need absolutely perfect hits from the Crackthorn for that to work out.
With Column's training in hand, this is lethal on board for Kumpelkefer. If this Colossus is not taunted, which There are no taunts. If it's not destroyed, which it would have to be all 4. Yeah, I think we just covered, and then Flame Burst and Cypher's Wrath, which would be 5. So that did not happen. It was unlikely to happen. Oh man, just one short of doing it too. Oh
yeah,
no.
really, and that's where the Voice of Truth maybe could have come in a little better there. Having played the Voice of Truth knocks that Colossus back down to the 7/7, like you were saying, instead of having the Grove Caller.
Yeah, that campfire. Actually, Voice of Truth could have saved his life. Of course, it's not the most intuitive play, but I think it would have ended up. Well, I don't know actually, but yeah. Oh, 2 columns training. He could do a little bit of BM here. Does he do it? No. Kumpelkeffer's a gentleman. And well played to Kumpelkeffer. That puts him up 2-1 in this best of 5. He is 1 game away from winning $1,500.
Yeah, that was a really great game. Kumpelkeffer just controlling the board at every step, continuing to deny every single creature that Mayhem put on the board. Really strong. That was really the way that Yellow Events is planned to be played. You control the early game, you continue to deny your opponent's creatures on board, you collect and out-collect your opponent, and then you just get to these discounted Colossus, and there's nothing your opponent can do to stop them. So
yeah, and at one point it seemed to me as if Kumpelkeffer with his yellow deck just didn't have any units that would stick on the board. Like Mayhem was just in control, I think, for a bit there, and over time Kumpel was able to establish a board after clearing it. There was multiple board clears that game. I think it was actually really cool as far as going back and forth.
I think you touched on a great point when we were in the game as well of those Wind Soldiers, and you're saying you've seen them played for essentially 1 Faeria because they double collect every single time. Those lines are so important for Yellow Events to establish, or Yellow Tempo to establish, so that they can get not only the Charger lines but the Wind Soldier lines as well. And then we see the Campfire come out from the Outland Ranger to make it 4 attack instead of 3. It's just absolutely massive swings in the game.
Yeah, every single Faeria matters, especially at this high level. You miss 1 Faeria that you could have gotten, and it can lose you the game, several turns down the line, because you just didn't have that 1 extra Faeria that you need to do the turn that you need to do. Sacrifice from Mayhem. Oh my goodness, I love it. Bloom Sprite, kept double Bloom Sprite. Is he going to go forest to each side and just double Bloom Sprite all the way?
Very excited for this one. Now, the issue with Green Yellow Sack against a Yellow Tempo type of deck like this is you are very all in on getting big Soul Eaters at the end of the game. You have 3 Soul Eaters, your opponent has 3 Last Nightmares. So if the draws line up about the same, every time you play one, your opponent's going to clear it. And that generally leads to the Yellow Events player just having full control over the entire game. One of the big things that Green Yellow Sack can do is if it's running a Bone Collector or Bone Collectors in the list, if you can get one of those snowballing early and force a Last Nightmare, then you can start to get some value out of your Soul Eater and eventually get it to the point where it has at least 20 attack and it's able to kill your opponent in 1 shot.
Interesting campfire there on the Outland Ranger with a forest played from Mayhem. He perhaps fears a spider. Maybe he doesn't even know what deck Mayhem is running. Certainly wouldn't be easy to tell at this point.
Yeah, just having seen the green-red Crackthorn, you don't really know what the last deck can be. And once you see green, maybe you're thinking it's like a green hand buff type of thing. So the Deepwood Stalker is something that could come out. So playing around that in that situation. But we are going to see, I would really expect double Bloom Sprite. Maybe now the Village Elder was picked up, you play it instead, but we do see the Bloom Sprites come down. So as much as we were talking about the Spell Whirls being effective earlier for Kumpelkeffer in his blue deck, these Bloom Sprites could be very important for Mayhem.
And at this point, Mayhem's deck is revealed. It's pretty clear when you drop Bloom Sprites down, you're going to be running some sort of sacrificial deck. Not always true, of course, but in general, we do see Shaitan's Assassin as well, which is great to have Shaitan's Assassins at this point in the matchup because blue is gone and all of those Emperor's commands are gone as well with that deck, I would imagine. So safe to play an Assassin and use it to get that double death touch.
Yeah, and Shaitan Assassin is sometimes very easily dealt with, but I don't believe we've seen any Choking Sands teched in Kumpelkeffer's lineup. So it'll need to be possibly Soul Drains or Wind Soldiers that really deny the value out of the Shaitan Assassins. But otherwise, we may see this be a card that is really able to pick up a lot of value against Kumpelkeffer's deck here.
Mayhem just slow playing it, playing as slow as you possibly can by controlling both orbs next to as well. The Village Elder comes out, and that's just in case, you know, the Bloom Sprite gets cleared out. We have reinforcements here in the form of the Elder who will take his place and continue harvesting. With this Fanatic here, for example, to clear it off, this is exactly why you would play the Village Elder. And he draws a Seedling. Which is not the best, but it works.
Yeah, not terrible in that situation just because it is a free card. It is a small creature that you can use as a sacrifice target. There's a lot of value that Mayhem could get right now, having picked up that Bone Collector. I mentioned briefly how it can snowball a game. Mayhem choosing to use the Wind Soldier, maybe sacrifice the Village Elder for the Shaitan Assassin and get that Bone Collector down could be very strong. Get that Bone Collector rolling onto the left side, especially when it's protected by the Shaitan Assassin.
Yeah, he's just out of land. He's out of space. He doesn't have enough space to do that Bone Collector Wind Soldier play, which would be amazing. He can just get the one buff from the Wind Soldier. Ideally, you get the buff from both targets. He can do it if he just. Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah, if
he only can't get the buff from the Outland Ranger here.
Okay, well he decides to keep the Elder alive, which is not that big of a deal. Ooh, okay, all right. That's exactly what I think you said at the beginning of the turn there. I was going to play that Shaitan Assassin. So now I see. Now it comes together. And yeah, nothing really in hand to deal with that Shaitan Assassin other than just a big beefy Last Nightmare. And man, it really sucks to waste it on that.
Yeah, interesting there. The Bone Collector, if it could have been in the right position to get the extra buff from the Outland Ranger, it would have been a 4/6, which would have been out of range of Choking Sands. But if Kumpelkeffer was running Choking Sands, you actually have two very good targets for it here. You have the Shaitan Assassin, which you want to use Choking Sands on to deny that value from some of your bigger creatures, but you also have the Bone Collector that you really don't want to get snowballing. You want to Choking Sands it while it still can, and it would have been a very difficult decision if that was a card that Kumpelkeffer had here. But now with the Shaitan Assassin, I mean, this is going to be very difficult for Kumpelkeffer to do anything in the course of the early stages of this game, and that's really going to give Mayhem the time to get towards his Soul Eaters.
And the great thing about these Bone Collectors is that, just as you're saying, as time goes on, as they get bigger and bigger, they have to have a Last Nightmare wasted on them. Not really wasted, but used on them, which means you have less Last Nightmares to deal with those Soul Eaters. So if you get to that point where you're out of Last Nightmares and your opponent is playing gigantic Soul Eaters, it's going to be really tough to come back with. There are Deepwood Stalkers in Mayhem's deck, so that was a heads-up play earlier for campfiring the Outland Ranger. But at this point, if he wants to, he could use that Stalker to take care of the Erodrum Fanatic.
Yeah, Deepwood Stalker actually really good in this deck. It can, of course, deal with all of these smaller 3/2 creatures, which are really running in so many different decks. But another big thing is, even if you need to use it to kill off like the remaining life of a Colossus or something bigger, it can be placed in a position like this, where it's right beside your Bone Collector, and it dies on the attack. Your Bone Collector gets buff from a very safe position.
Seedling comes out with a similar purpose of the Village Elder earlier to replace that Bloom Sprite should he fall in battle, and over time become a pretty nice 4/5 if he can wait long enough. There's a Wind Soldier now. Man, this is just a tough spot for Kumpelkeffer. You got to think anything you throw at that assassin, when that assassin dies, you're just crowing the Bone Collector. You can't play your Windstorm Colossus when you have a Death Touch creature out on the field like this. Very little. Look at him flicking his cards. That's the sign of a player. I think he did that earlier, or maybe no, that might have been Shadow Blue, I think. But yeah, when you see a player flicking their cards like that, they're thinking. They're either usually unhappy about something. It's not a clear play, basically. And yeah, so we do see. He leaves the demon on board.
Yeah, so this is actually really interesting. He puts the demon in a position where Shaitan Assassin can get value from it very easily, but it'll be you need to step it off to the side and then the Bone Collector up, and that'll put the Bone Collector within range of the other demon using the Outland Ranger and the campfire there. So then you can get the right trade that way, and then your Outland Ranger or maybe the Wind Soldier kills off the remaining power of the assassin. So Kumpelkeffer just kind of forcing what trades Mayhem can make here. We'll see how Mayhem decides to go for it, because he probably doesn't want to expose that Bone Collector in the wrong way here. It's tough in this spot.
Yeah, it's all about, we keep saying this over and over, but it's all about getting those Bone Collectors big, because they only cost 2 Faeria, and the value they give is just crazy. The way this deck operates. These Soul Eaters, of course, aren't going to be played this early. At only 4/4. Okay, yep, there. Now we have a 4/6. He's going to play the Soul Eater. He keeps touching. Okay, sure. All right, so he's got a 4/4 Flying Charge 3 on board, which of course is going to grow as more creatures die. So a little bit of a Last Nightmare target now, but what does it matter if he gets Last Nightmare now compared to later? And look, 2 Bone Collectors surrounding it, so if it gets Last Nightmare, sure, buff my Bone Collectors.
Yeah, really all-in play coming out from Mayhem. Interesting going for the Soul Eater in that spot, but like you said, it's going to get bigger even on board here. So, the current look is Mayhem going to use the Bone Collector and the Shaitan Assassin to trade into whatever Kumpelkeffer plays on the board here, and then that Soul Eater is really going to be able to kind of run riot once it gets up to the 6/6, 7/7. These Colossus aren't in a safe enough position to come down this early into the game.
Yeah, he's just set himself up so well, Mayhem has. There's no great move. 13 Faeria, by the way, for Kumpelkeffer. He's just had no options, no great options. And a lot of them were shut down simply by that Shaitan Assassin. He just couldn't deal with it. No choking sands, like we were saying. No even Falcon Hives or any sort of thing to just deal with this easily. He's had to run, potentially 2 Shaitan Demons into at this point. Okay, no, he's going to clear this Bone Collector while he can before it gets too big, and that's going to leave him with a 6/1 that can still deal with that Soul Eater, which is gone as well. So now we have a 2/4 Bone Collector, 1 Last Nightmare down, Windstorm Charger. There goes all of that 13 Faeria we were just looking at for Kumpelkeffer, and now he has a board.
Yeah, and I was thinking of if there was a way Kumpelkeffer could have, instead of going for the Charger there, been able to get the Wind Soldier around in the right way to kill off the Bone Collector while it was still a 1/3, but it had to go for the Last Nightmare onto the Soul Eater, and that immediately buffed the Bone Collector out of range. So we'll see if there is a possibility here where Mayhem can pick up some value from the Bone Collector. Looks like it's just going to be able to get 1 buff here. But really nice pickup of the Deepwood Stalker again. That's going to allow him to clear off the Ranger, and that should keep the Assassin healthy enough that it could possibly represent killing off the Charger here on the upcoming turn.
As long as that Assassin is on board, you can't play any Colossi in good conscience. That Charger does not want to move over there in good conscience. There's just, it's pretty much waste a Wind Soldier on it now to even be able to do anything worthwhile, and that may be what he's forced to do. Look at him, 3 Colossus in hand. That is rough.
Yeah, I would expect we'll see the draw coming out from Kumpelkeffer. Does find Kaleem, which is really nice. But Wind Soldier going to kill off the Assassin here. Hopefully he doesn't move it. Yeah, very nice. Don't want to give away a free buff to the Bone Collector, but we do see that Charger being the only thing for Kumpelkeffer on the board. Doesn't have any events in hand and just has these Colossus. But now he's in a position where, these Colossus could come down, because Mayhem would have to run a lot of creatures into just a single one, and you can get a lot of value from that.
And the last thing you want to see is an Eridon coming down and getting sacrificed, because you as a yellow player are going to have a very tough time dealing with these extra stats on these tiny little weenie units throughout the entire game. So no sacrifice yet for Mayhem, but once he draws one, we're going to see that Eridon poof away. All right, Callum is in hand, a little bit late to the party. He'd love to have him much earlier instead of like a Windstorm Colossus, for example. Finally, the Assassin is off the field, so a lot of options open up. Let's see here. Soul Drain onto... Is he able to kill the Bone Collector? That's what we need to see. I don't think so.
Could have killed it there. Wind Soldier killing off the Village Elder and then Soul Drain the Bone Collector, but you would have lost your Charger at the same time, so really just not worth it in that situation. Probably
No.
expect no movement coming out from Kumplekeffer, and yeah, he doesn't go for it there. Aridin's always an interesting choice in these green-yellow sacks. I believe we'll probably see it get sacrificed here with that Demon Wrangler, like you were talking about. But it's always interesting because most of the cards that you have that are sacrifice targets, you want to die. So you don't really need the extra +1/1 onto them because you're going to sacrifice them anyway. But sometimes, certain matchups, it's actually very important to have your creatures just having that extra little bit of durability.
Yeah, and once again, blue is out of the way, so he doesn't have to worry about any kind of transformation. He's not going to lose to Frogify here. Let's see. After this is sacrifice, his Bone Collector goes to 4. The Village Elder dies, it goes to 5. He can easily destroy this Windstorm Colossus this turn, of course. His Bone Collector becomes very vulnerable afterwards. Let's see. Tiki Chieftain. He went for the Bloom Sprite, not Aridon there. The Bloom Sprite for the
4,
draw.
5, 6. There was a way that, with all the sacrifices, Mayhem could have had his Bone Collector survive against the Colossus as well here. So really odd that he went for this choice instead. Fnatic now picked up does mean the Bone Collector can move up and kill the Charger though, so does get a lot of value out of that play.
I love how every play that Mayhem is doing is the opposite of what I expect to happen. Because, yeah, we see the Colossus, we say, how can you deal with the Colossus? Well, yeah, you can trade some stuff and your Bone Collector can then trade with it. But you can just take care of the Charger right now. I mean, sure, you lose your Bone Collector afterwards, but you can still get rid of that Colossus fairly easily. Soul Eater is now a 10-10, and there are no Last Nightmares in hand for Kumplekeffer.
Yeah, this is looking really good for Mayhem actually now. In a good position where that Bone Collector has been rolling a little bit. Flashwind is a really good pickup for Kumplekeffer because he's going to be able to clear here, play another Colossus, but there's enough power on board right now that this gets cleared away right away, and then Mayhem could just go for the Soul Eater in an aggressive enough position that it's going to represent killing Kumplekeffer next turn.
Yeah, in case you missed it, that Tiki Chieftain coming down to lock down that Colossus by giving the Deepwood Stalker taunt, but Flashwind bypassing that. Now he can still lock down that other Colossus while clearing the 7-1, and yeah, just like you're saying, play that Soul Eater, play him right in the middle of the board, right in range of face, and you start the clock for the end of the game when you do that.
Yeah, we are going to see the clear here, and even if Kumplekeffer had a Last Nightmare to deal with this Soul Eater, it's not going to be enough Faeria in hand. It really doesn't matter where you play the Soul Eater here, just because it has the flying and the charge 3, so it's going to be able to reach the face even from this desert position. Just needs a Fnatic to ensure that he's going to be able to hit the face here, just in case something like an Outland Ranger came down to body block for a turn.
Imagine if he had that Spirit of Rebirth out early in the game, like instead of one of those Bloom Sprites, like on the right side. My goodness, how much value that would have given.
Although, to be fair with that, Mayhem has had a pretty empty hand most of the game because he just continued to unload his creatures here. And that'll do it. Mayhem evens it up 2-2, and we will go into a all-deciding Game 5. The green-yellow sack of Mayhem, and because we saw it earlier, we know Kumplekeffer coming out with the green-red Crackthorn, so probably going to be very important for him to find Cypher's Wrath, Ground Shakers early in the game to take care of a lot of these sacrifice creatures.
The yellow deck just couldn't burst through. It couldn't get to the orb. It couldn't get control. Crackthorn may be a deck that's much more suited to deal with this. It's certainly very capable of dealing with low-health creatures. The problem that it can't deal with very well is gigantic 16/16 Soul Eaters. So this is going to be a very scary matchup, I think, for Kumplekeffer. He wants to get a great start here. He wants to put pressure on early because the later it goes, the worse off he's going to be.
Yeah, and Kumplekeffer does get a really good start. Having that Ground Shaker, depending on what your opponent starts with, can get a lot of value. Flame Burst, really good against Bone Collector if you can get it in the right spot. And then, of course, if you don't go for the Ground Shaker, you could go for Garridan instead and clear off everything. Oh, interesting. Mayhem goes for the Forest here, because that actually means he's not going to be able to collect next turn. He could go for a Desert, but the Elder would have to step on the Desert, and that denies using it as a collection for the Demon Wrangler. But Aridin is a very good pickup if you can get it down. He's going to be able to get it down on this turn if he chooses to, and then use the Demon Wrangler next turn. Start really stacking up that value like we were talking about last game.
And the stats against Crackthorn are a tremendous advantage. I feel like Mayhem planned out his deck selections so well by maybe perhaps predicting that by the time he's going to play his sacrifice deck, blue is going to be gone. He have to deal with yellow as a threat, but there's hardly anyone playing sacrifice decks now. So this, I think, is a really great selection, a great choice to put this in his lineup and just deal with I guess what you could call the tournament meta, which has appeared. Of course, it's still very young after the last change, even though it was small. We can see there's a dramatic difference from the last monthly cup. So yes, as you're saying, Aridon now can be sacrificed with that Demon Wrangler, and the rest of this game is going to be a little bit better for Mayhem.
Yeah, the Ground Shaker in this position where it's able to kill off one creature really is the max that it's ever going to do now, because everything that is a 1/1, Demon Wranglers are 2/1s, they're all going to be 2/2s now. So Ground Shakers aren't going to have as much impact. Crackthorn's really not going to have as much impact. And if Kumpel Kefir feels very, I want to say like stressed throughout the course of the game, where he's forced to play more and more creatures, that Garridan may never be played. Very interesting to see Mayhem not go for the sacrifice there.
I was expecting a Demon Wrangler onto the Aridon, and then just drop. He could still play the Village Elder on the other side. It would be a 2/2, and like you're saying, 2/2 out of range of a lot of nasty things Red and Crackthorn can do. So it's not what I would expected, but I'm not going to question Mayhem. I'm in no position to do so. So he must know what he's doing. Shaitan Assassin, a little bit less useful in this matchup because there are so many 1-damage pings from Kumpel Kefir, but we've already seen a Ground Shaker.
Maybe a situation where Mayhem's just trying to get one of these assassins down as well. But it looks kind of awkward. He's not going to have the land set up exactly in the right ways. Just because it is forests on the right, you're not ever playing a creature that you're using to sacrifice another creature on your forest. You're always playing them on the desert. So if that elder had been able to come down on the forest on the opposite side instead of on the desert, could have gone Demon Wrangler and a Shaitan Assassin this turn, but just not going to be an option now for Mayhem. He's only going to have one sacrifice this turn.
Yeah, and if that Aridon had been destroyed, these assassins would be 2/2s. It's really significant to get out of that 1 health range against Crackthorn decks. That's something that I'd love to ask him about why he made the decision. And finally, no.
I would expect the Village Elder to get sacrificed here, not Aridon. So that is what we see.
Yeah.
It just forces your opponent to step back. There's no way Kumpel Kefir can step up with the Ground Shaker here because the Shaitan Assassin is then within range. So that maybe Mayhem is thinking that he kind of messed up the sacrifices a little bit there with the Village Elder positioning, so now he's using the Assassin to reset, and then next turn can go for Demon Wrangler, maybe another Shaitan Assassin, or once you use the Demon Wrangler and get Aridin, that Deepwood Stalker gets a buff and it can kill the X-Grinder very easily.
Yeah, 3 damage nuke for green. That's always nice to have. There is a Grove Collar in hand for Kumpel Kefir, but that Assassin just shuts down so many different options you can think of, so just going to sit here and harvest. Maybe even hang on to his cards. Yep, just hangs on to him and waits and see. Our Soul Eaters are at 3/3, so not quite that bulky yet.
This looks like such a strong turn for Mayhem then. He can step the Assassin over and collect Demon Wrangler to trade off with to sacrifice Aridin, and then you Shaitan Assassin the Demon Wrangler. Deepwood Stalker comes down as your reinforcement on the right side, kills off the Axe Grinder. Even if your opponent plays Garridan next turn, you have 2 protected Shaitan Assassins. It just looks so strong against most of what your opponent's going to play.
Yeah, generally you want to avoid having 2 Shaitan Assassins on board, but if he does it correctly, you can have one of his Assassins can be a 2/2, and we keep harping on this over and over, but that's extremely significant. Okay, Aridon, do you live? Everyone's waiting for you to die with your little bird mask. Are you going to survive another day? It looks like I think he is going to. Why else?
I keep looking at this thinking that the double sacrifice of Demon Wrangler and then Shaitan Assassin looks so good, and then Mayhem steps onto the desert that he needed to use as a sacrifice.
I don't understand. There it is. Okay, so finally, goodbye. And now it's going to be the 3 damaged Deepwood Stalker to clear the Axe Grinder, I would have to imagine. It's nothing at all, Scorch. Just as I said, nothing at all happened. He's just buffing up everything with Aerodon, which, of course, is nothing to scoff at. Soul Eater's up to 5/5 now with that sort of double buff.
I'm just not sure. Like, I know that the green-yellow sacrifice plays very slow, but Mayhem seems like he's playing it even slower, and it does get punished by Garridan here. In a situation where Garridan wouldn't have been able to clear everything before. Now your Deepwood Stalker doesn't have any value, your Demon Wrangler doesn't have any sacrifice targets, and now you're really locked out of all of your options when it looked like Mayhem had so many good things he could set up before.
The good news here is that Garridan's out of the way, and that's significant. He can play another Shaitan Assassin this turn, the 2/2 with Divine, with Protection. That's going to be able to survive almost anything Complicator is able to do, unless he pings twice somehow, and I don't think he has a Faeria for that. So Shaitan Assassin's still very strong. He still has a Soul Eater in hand. It's now a 9/9 after that sacrifice, and playing that on board is significant. If it dies, Complicator is going to have to invest a lot to destroy it, so that's okay, and he has more in his deck. So yeah, I'm totally for playing Soul Eater in this position, and now Complicator, he's not been able to get to the orb because of these assassins. For 2 games in a row now, these assassins have stopped Complicator from doing almost anything. He's been on the back foot. Is there an answer for this assassin? He only has a Flame Burst, so he could. It's going to be so expensive, though.
And there actually is a little bit of a passive play here. You can step the Ground Shaker back a space, create a forest just beside, to the right of Garridan there, and then use your Grove Caller and teleport Garridan over that one space so it can zip across and then Flame Burst, kills off the Soul Eater, and your Grove Caller then body blocks the assassin for your Ground Shaker. And then you hope that you draw into another Flame Burst or a Cypher's Wrath to kill off the assassin and keep your Ground Shaker healthy. It's a possibility. I don't know if it's as valuable as you really want at this stage of the game, unfortunately.
That's actually a really good play. I really like that line there, mostly because you take care of that Soul Eater before it grows any bigger, and you're not going to have, he ends up even feed the foresting there. You're not going to have many opportunities to deal with this Soul Eater after this turn. So if you have an opportunity, it may be worth it. Here comes Crackthorn.
Just needs the 1 damage. And here we see where Aerodon actually picks up a ton of value because that Shaitan Assassin is able to survive. Really just needed the 1 to clear off the safeguard, or the protection there, but still it's going to represent killing off one of these creatures.
That was almost as bad as it could have been. Like, oh, he did not... Yeah, Aerodon there. Just the extra health is so relevant. That Assassin surviving is such a big deal. We have a 10/8 on board. He can choose to take it to the face, or just deal with the Ground Shaker and wait till he draws his second Soul Eater, which is going to be so difficult to deal with. Wow, this is actually a tougher choice than I would think at first. If he drew a buff or something, that would be absolutely amazing. Elder would embrace, for instance. What do you think here? Go face or defend?
I think you go for the defense. Again, like you're saying, your Soul Eater on board is a 10/10. That means the next one's going to be 11/11. They're going to continue to scale from there. You don't really need to force the game right now. If Mayhem last turn had played the Soul Eater in a position where it could hit the orb right now, then you go for the race because you're on a 2-turn clock. But in this situation, you could even create a forest directly in front of your own orb, and then you at least pick up an extra 1/1 buff on the Bone Collector. That forces the Crackthorn to not be able to step directly down. Wind Soldier is actually a great pickup here. Is there a spot you can go for? Doesn't look like there's quite enough here of clearing off both creatures and trying to get some Bone Collector value, just because there are no forests developed on the left for Mayhem right now.
Yeah, and he's already used his Power Wheel, so that's going to be a little bit difficult to do. I think we are going to see the defensive play just to stabilize here a little bit. He can play a Bone Collector on the right side to harvest. Play a little bit more slowly. Oh, you know what? He's got a 4/2. Those are 4/2s now. Yeah, of course. Thanks to Aerodon. Aerodon, I have to say, is a super smart include into the Sacrifice deck, because not everyone runs it, like we were saying earlier, in Sacrifice decks. But against decks like Crackthorn, it's outstanding. Against so many decks, really. If you're playing against anything that's not coming right at your face, the value it provides, early game especially, is just amazing.
Yeah, of course, in the early game is the big bold letters there, because if you get it in the late game, it really doesn't provide you with anything. Even just using it as a sacrifice target, it's fairly weak. But if you get it in the early game, like we're seeing here from Mayhem, it's so much power over the course of the game, and it's just absolutely game changing, especially in a matchup like this. So Fnatic picked up for Mayhem. I believe you have to go for a draw here. Not exactly sure what Mayhem is looking to get here. He just needs another creature to stick on the board, it seems like.
Yeah, Kumpelkefer has an opportunity to breathe here, an opportunity to establish a board. After that gigantic combat that just happened, Spirit of Rebirth is another great draw. That'll be a 4/4/2. Man, just these extra stats just change everything. Like now that Spirit of Rebirth can trade with the Axe Grinder if it comes down to it. I don't think that it will. But, playing it in range, whereas Erodrum Fnatic can move it to clear it if necessary. There's so many different things now that his creatures are all just a little tiny bit stronger. For Faeria, for Kumpelkefer, he could go for the double harvest here, but, I feel like he's almost... Oof. I mean, where are you going late game, if you're going to sit here and double harvest? I suppose it's not that bad in the short term, but you got to start going for that face. But how? Next turn, Mayhem doesn't really have anything beefier in his hand just yet, so hopefully he doesn't draw anything for Kumpelkefer's sake.
Yeah, seemed like Kumpelkefer was going to go for the draw there just because he didn't have a lot of great options. Could have gone for the +1 Faeria, played an Underground Boss, but it just didn't seem like a good enough play in that situation. But anything that he drew into, which, Ground Shaker, Crackthorn, the cards that you want to see, he didn't have enough Faeria to play. So does go for the Wood Elemental here. That's going to set up a trade with the Spirit of Rebirth, it looks like. And then maybe the Ground Shaker can pick up value next turn, but we're in a situation right now where Kumpelkefer wants to continue to draw into these big creatures and end the game before Mayhem's able to find that next Soul Eater, because that is really going to represent just game over with one hit.
Earthcraft here, drawing a new tool. It's a Bloom Sprite. We saw Bloom Sprites put to use last game and do fairly well with their draws. $1,500 on the line here for first place. Either player, whoever wins this match, gets it all. Second place, $1,000. So every single turn here, super focused. Each player is super focused about what they're doing. At this point, they've been playing for going on 8 hours. Not constantly, but this tournament, I think we're going on 8 hours, so fatigue is starting to set in, mental fatigue at this point. Mistakes might be made. Kumpelkefer is looking for a big one from Mayhem to open up some sort of opportunity for him. Look at his hand. He's got a Ciphers. He's got a Ground Shaker, and this is a nice Ground Shaker here to take care of that Spirit of Rebirth before it can do anything else, provide any more value. But Erodrum Fnatic able to clear that double harvesting Axe Grinder.
Yeah, it's really interesting what Mayhem views as more important to clear. Could go for the double Deepwood Stalker to clear off the Ground Shaker as well, but I would expect that he will kill off the Axe Grinder, like you're saying. Could use the Fnatic and one Deepwood Stalker to kill off the Ground Shaker, but probably doesn't feel like he's in that much trouble of a low enough life total right now. So I would expect we probably see the draw because, again, he's just looking for that Soul Eater. 13 cards left in the deck. He just needs one of them. At this situation, you have the Village Elder, you have the Bloom Sprite, really good sacrifice targets, but no other sacrifices currently. Maybe you have another Assassin coming out, and that can really help, but really nice as well. The Deepwood Stalker is going to come down in a position where it can buff up the Bone Collector, and that's just going to create such a safe creature off to the right here. So Kumpelkefer, again, not finding a creature to play. Something like a Warrior Wood Elemental would have been really nice to find here. There's one, but can't go for the +1 because he already drew. And here's the Soul Eater. We can hear the music. It's like Christmas going off. 16-16 currently, so it isn't quite at one hit range, but it's enough that your opponent's really not going to be able to deal with it in any way, shape, or form coming up here. Bone Collector probably does need to double collect so you can play the Soul Eater rather than +1 Faeria, because you really want the Soul Eater in a position where you're either drawing into a Fanatic or you're maybe putting the Soul Eater right where it can guarantee hit face.
Is this how it ends? Does it end with a 16/16 Soul Eater in range of face Kumpelkeffer with red-green, no hard removal in his deck, no death touch, no transformation, no last nightmares, nothing like that. He just has to deal with the 16/16 as it is and win before it kills him. It's that simple. He has so many cards in hand. He has 6 Faeria. You can see the dread on his yak face, because he's thinking hard about what he wants to do, what he needs to do, his options.
Don't believe we've seen any Voice of Truths come out in Kumpelkeffer's deck, which would be a great card, and that's just going to do it. Mayhem in an unbelievably good game, good series played there, brings out the green-yellow sack in a completely unexpected fashion, taking the final 2 games to win the grand finals over Kumpelkeffer.
Mayhem is the champion of the 11th. I'm sorry, I'm having dog problems today. They celebrate Mayhem. I'm gonna let them bark. I just want to say Mayhem takes his 2nd ever monthly cup victory, earning $1,500. These dogs are just so happy about it. Kumpelkeffer, though, nothing to be ashamed about. His 1st ever monthly cup, winning $1,000. I'll take that.
Yeah, very strong performance, of course, coming out from Kumpelkeffer, but a big congratulations to Mayhem for the 1st place finish. Let's throw it back over the desk. Aquavlad, take it away.
What a fantastic final to conclude this month's cup. And Mayhem crowned another 2-time monthly cup champion alongside Modnik and Sweetie. He joins the ranks of world bosses of Faeria, and he is such a fantastic player. But Kumpelkeffer, fantastic performance from him for his 1st monthly cup. Should be very proud of himself. Yeah. What do you think, Lizard? Those matches were really good.
Especially the first one was really impressive. Him taking care of the libraries completely shut down Mayhem and enabled Keffer to win this game. Just being behind on Faeria is so important, so bad as a Dreamweaver deck. You really want to get to that late game and pump out those whales in your opponent's face. But unfortunately, Mayhem was not able to do it. But then again, he came back and won the series with a strong green-yellow sacrifice. I feel like Eridon is a really nice addition, especially with our newest contestant, Deepwood Stalker. I feel like they did some really nice theory crafting over at Faeria Jail here. Like, having Deepwood Stalker and the Wind Soldier in your deck just upgrades all your removal by 2, by 1 actually, and it's such a great card.
It kind of played into the crack form meta, extending the power of all his creatures in his deck by 1. It makes Ground Shakers have less impact. Same with Crackthorn as well. And those Shaitan Assassins, they can't be Empress commanded at that point. They actually remain relevant. Yeah. So it's actually an adjustment that Green Yellow Sack probably needs to make if they want to continue using Assassins in the future.
Yeah, overall a great series. We had a back and forth between the 2 players. Unfortunately, we didn't see many surprises though. I think the only one that really caught me off guard was Eridon and Green Yellow Sack. That was some nice variants there. But other than that, we just had the standard meta decks that have been around for quite some time now. The Crackthorn, the Yellow Tempo, the Blue Jump, and the Sack, of course, but with some variation there.
We had strong performances from mid-range green, mono green. We had strong performance from Wishes. Gabriel Wishes, although King Dan's didn't make its top 4. The fact that he brought Wishes in a lineup and did well with it is amazing in itself. And of course, Mayhem, showing us the power of Green Yellow Sacrifice, especially with that Eridon buff. But overall, fantastic tournament from these players. Well done to them. And as Atmaz said during the cast, these players have been, wired to the game for the last 8 hours to try and get that crown. And fatigue does take its toll in long tournaments. It is a skill to be able to overcome tiredness and stay focused when you've had a very long day of hard thinking before these like big matches like the finals. It is a skill that tournament competitors do tend to learn. So big shout outs to all the players who made it this far.
Absolutely.
And
And we can safely say that Mayhem mastered the skill by delivering a great grand final here. And Kumpelkeffer I think we're going to see some more of him in the next monthly cup. He's proven that he's a really good player and can stand his ground.
So, Faeria Tail as a team has won 3 out of 4 monthly cups in the last 4 months. It just goes to show that they're a very powerful team. Their team members, are capable of taking home the gold. Imperia, although he didn't make top 4 this time, one of the most consistent Faeria players in the world right now.
Yeah.
And Faeria Tail, the French team, has shown they are the rulers of the land of Faeria right now. The French are very dominant when it comes to this game. So we should wrap this up. Thank you very much to everyone who watched today and stuck around. Greatly appreciate your support, and I hope you enjoyed the tournament and the matches you watched today. But before we sign off, any final words from you, Lizard?
Yeah, I'm very grateful for you having me here on the cast. Watching the grand finals was fun, and shout out to Atmos Dogs. They clearly wanted to be heard. Yeah, I had a blast here. Saw some great games and great series, and I hope to see more underground dogs in the future. We saw Shadow Blue, who tried really hard, was very passionate about this game and getting into the monthly, which he achieved, and he even he even made a good series and took 4th place, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would be happy if I would go in the monthly and take the 4th place if it was my 1st monthly cup. So definitely a good performance for him.
Awesome. Scorch, any final words before we close this out?
No, it was a great day, a lot of very exciting games, and that led to a lot of very close and tense matches as a whole. A great series coming out. We saw a bunch of 3-2s, taking it right to the brink. Some last-second top decks always leads for some great entertainment value. So hope all the fans and the viewers out there enjoyed. As I had a great time, as always.
One thing I would like to add maybe is... I'd encourage people to build more teams. We've seen how powerful Faeria Tail is, even with these victories in the monthly cups. They've been so consistent, and maybe if we get more teams, we'll see more the level of play improve, and more people having a good time. I can just recommend it.
Yeah, right. I agree as well. There's a Faeria Team League, which you can participate in the future if you do have a team, and just get on Reddit, get on the forums, or just get in Discord and see if any guys want to play, get some regular practice going, do some scrims with your friends and your teammates, and who knows, you could be here in the top 4 of the monthly cup. Any final thoughts, Atmaz, before we finish this off?
Cup has indeed pleased my hounds. They bay and wail with excitement from what they've seen. We can see just a little change to one card can produce such a different monthly cup. It goes to show how intricate the machine of Faeria is and how interwoven the meta can be. The introduction of Sacrifice deck from Mayhem, I think, was super genius, super smart. I know people have run it before. It's not like he's the first, but I think it was the perfect choice, the perfect prediction for what he might need, with blue being toned down just a little bit. Still very competitive. We still saw lots of blue, and it did very well. So I'm really happy with the results today. I think it was very diverse, and I liked it a lot. I hope that everyone watching enjoys their eggs. Hope they're covered in yolks and have all those prizes given to them. Thank you very much for watching. Remember, eggs will continue to hatch until the rest of the weekend. And that is Monthly Cup 11, the 11th one. I can't believe we're almost to a full year of Monthly Cups. It's blown by. And, of course, they continue. We will have another one next month. Qualifiers will open soon. That'll be posted in our Discord. Make sure to hang out in our Discord if you want to keep up with the latest Faeria events. More World Bosses are next Friday. And then the Friday after. And then the Friday after that. So you have that to look forward to. And don't forget, Over Sky is coming this summer. Lots of stuff for Faeria this summer. No joke. We're working hard on it. So Thank you all very much. Thank you guys all for casting and, of course, having me. And that is all from me. I will see you guys next time.
All right, guys. Thank you very much again for tuning in. So until next time, take care and enjoy the rest of your evening.